First topic of the day, Subway is being sued for, quote, grossly misleading ads for sandwiches bursting with meat. So a lawsuit accuses Subway of grossly misleading customers by advertising sandwiches that contain at least 3 times as much meat as it delivers. So according to a proposed class action filed on Monday in federal court, this was in Brooklyn, Subway ads for its steak and cheese show, it says that its meat is bursting within and reaching as high as the surrounding hero bread, whatever that means. But because
Probably
again, we'll get to it, but their bread isn't even legally bread. In reality, according to several photos in the complaint, Subway sandwiches are far more bread than filling. So if the selling point is that the meat bursts beyond the bread, there might actually be a claim here. This is especially concerning, says the complaint itself, because the inflation and high food prices are causing many lower income consumers to struggle financially. The lawsuit, this young lady from Queens said she paid $7.61 for a steak sandwich at a local Subway, not realizing that the fast food chain's ads showed the sandwich contained at least 200% more meat. Now, here's what's interesting. Similar lawsuits filed in the same court have been against McDonald's, Wendy's, and Taco Bell. All have been dismissed this year. So the Subway case represents an egregious example of the type of advertising that these law firms are trying to stop. And another similar lawsuit against Burger King is pending in federal court. So before I break it down any further, Godzilla, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's definitely not as appetizing as King Kong, but definitely I might try to do this every single time you mention it. But,
I hope not.
This is kind of an example of some of these frivolous lawsuits. I think there is an example of like advertisements is a bit more of, I think we've established before, especially with food advertisements, it's a bit exaggerated reality of the actual product that we get. Now, in some of these fast food scenarios, the reality versus the advertisement is, ooh, it's sad. Like, if you ever just unwrap a Subway sub and just like as you're watching a commercial of a Subway sandwich, ooh, that's not exactly what I ordered, nor is it quite as appetizing. This also reminds me of the lawsuit where someone like measured like 100 subs. They weren't actually a foot long. They were like 10 and a half inches or 11 inches. That I think had a lot more standing than this one necessarily does.
Well, I piggybacking off of that, this isn't like the first run-in Subway has had with the law. People have tried suing them for how their bread is legally classified as cake, but for some reason they still get to call it bread. It was taken that their tuna, take it to a DNA sampling center, and it's not even tuna. It's like mystery fish. So they're giving you cheap knockoff fish, calling it tuna, and if those lawsuits can't prevail, you're not going to find much success here. But one thing I'd want to throw out to launchpad the conversation is when you look at like the filming of a McDonald's ad, 90% of it's like wax and plastic.
Oh, yeah.
How is that legal? Like, if I'm selling you a tractor and I bring in a faux tractor to sell the tractor, we would find that totally grossly negligent. And however, the food we consume and like pollute our body, like we're calling things meat, they're not even legally meat. Going to Taco Bell, having lawsuits. It's like, at the same time, how sad is it that something like Taco Bell is like the healthiest amongst these fast foods?
Well, the Taco Bell being the healthiest fast food statistic is mostly attributed to just the general taco is less caloric than anything else. Like, let's
so
just go
instead
down
you just have 10 of them to compensate for your one Big Mac.
Not a normal person's probably not having 10, maybe 4 or 5. But even so, the average item in Taco Bell isn't as caloric as like the average item on a McDonald's. Or if you remember the salads were actually more unhealthy for you, like calorie wise, than any of the Big Macs were, just based purely on just the raw calories in this whole thing. So I don't buy a whole lot of this. The bread thing too is interesting because it's just the amount of sugar really. And when you're making laws, you gotta define. You got to define it one way or the other, and you got to draw a line. And it's like, well, I guess you have 1 more gram of sugar here. It's not technically bread. It's I guess, cake. pastry.
Do you
whatever.
really think the divider here is a gram of sugar?
I don't think it's a gram of sugar, but it's probably
what shill corporate like sellout has stepped into your space.
Hey, I live amongst the skyscrapers, so I do get a better appreciation of the corporate structure.
Cake bread.
But I never liked that just because you call pizza bread. Most people would consider pizza dough like dough of a bread, and you make pizza bread. But there's a lot of sugar in most pizza breads because you need the yeast to rise. There's sugars in a lot of breads. Yes, they just put a bit more sugar in there because it helps preserve, and people like sweet stuff in general. So that never really the tuna thing. That's a bit more egregious than the bread.
I could agree. Because what are definitions but like lawyers drawing lines that are mostly artificial,
especially with the baked ingredient when there's just thresholds of amount of there's amount of ingredients that you can like tortillas technically bread because it's just flour, water, maybe a little bit of sugar, but like the tuna thing, I'm selling tuna, it's actually just something else.
Right.
Mystery fish, some like to call it. That's a lot more egregious.
Flipping it to the pickle gallery, what do you guys think? Silent, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the thing about like tuna and things that you eat that come in a can or in a box or from a fast food place, you really can never know what exactly is in it because they can say one thing and it can be completely something different. And you can never really know because it's all like processed usually in like different facilities that are processing different things that may come in contact with other things too. So I think your best bet is if you're actually going to eat fast food, just lower your expectations and just don't actually believe that any of it is nutritious because it's not, because most of it is just highly processed for profit, just crappy food that's made in the most cost-effective manner allowed, and as much fillers and other stuff that they can get away with as the FDA will allow them to. So just keep that in mind if you do eat fast food.
It's like that cheap, fast, good triangle. You can only pick two when it comes to your food. So fast food, obviously, cheap and fast. It's not good.
That's fair. Yeah, who would have thought something with quality would take like time and energy to?
Like you know what they say: if it's worth getting, it's worth getting quickly.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. Ricky, what are your thoughts?
I know all about love, right? And Subway don't put love in their food. You know what I mean? They never put love in their food. They're processed. Everything in Subway is processed except for the veggies. And sometimes you have to question the veggies because they don't be looking so good. I never trust Subway. I never knew of them being healthy, even when they say eat fresh, because ain't no love. It's processed. Like, where's the love? It don't even make sense. Like, everything processed. The meat comes frozen. It's salami. Like, they just been lying to everybody for years. Jared was a liar. They're all liars. So the fine line they're trying to define, people, if he can go somewhere and get something less than 5 minutes, more than likely it ain't the best food for you. It's just a quick meal, you know what I mean? And you shouldn't live on quick meals. That ain't love.
That ain't love.
Man, Diddy's spitting facts here today. How insightful.
He should put that into a song. It might be so better than what you've already got out. Now, I want to hone in on a couple things. At what point do you draw the line for the public to be able to collect on a lawsuit, right? I don't know if you recall when we were in college, long time ago, Red Bull lost a lawsuit for the fact that it doesn't in fact give you wings, and everybody got like a case of like free Red Bull. And this would be something similar. I'm sure the buyout would be everybody could go collect on a free sandwich between like 3 weeks or something. It would be a heavy cost, but it isn't going to be something like you're not going to become a millionaire off of this. So you look at somebody that paid, what was it, $7.86, or you're paying $8.
Yeah, pretty
like,
much.
A lot of this is measured on damage. So it should cost Subway that there was a tiny bit of damage across a lot of people, but you yourself are not going to financially benefit much from something that cost you $8 and you probably should have seen 25 cents more meat. Also, it comes back. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little funny story. Between law school and college, I worked at AT&T, or I had AT&T and I worked at Sprint. These folks would come in bitching at me. boy, this sucks. This service is the worst. And I'm like, we are at Sprint. Like, what the hell did you expect? You walked out with like 3 free lines. So you get what you pay for. I'm selling you Sprint lines with AT&T in my pocket, knowing this is dog shit. And you're still surprised when your calls drop. So similarly, when your kidney fails, but you made a meal of $8 2-minute sandwiches, where's the shocker here?
Yeah, no, I that point I agree with you a bunch, and I think that's where this might be a rare take for me. This is where I think capitalism should just take over and vice of the government. The government really shouldn't be. Yeah, you over exaggerate your advertisements a little bit, and it just looks more appetizing than it actually is. That's not exactly a crime, and the free market should be able to decide. Well, all right, you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, okay, well, maybe I don't actually care about how much meat's in this, and I'm just eating Subway because, I don't know. I actually don't know why, but there isn't. I don't think there's a whole lot of room for these types of frivolous lawsuits. This just slows down everything. Slows down innovation. It makes everything more expensive. This type of garbage it just makes everything worse. And now they're like, well, we're getting sued all these times, so we have to raise price a little bit to compensate for it. Or probably they should be suing on, and they did, but the tuna thing, that's a lot. That's really something you should be suing on. I don't want to be eating imitation fish when I'm expecting tuna. That I think is a bit more egregious than, well, there's kind of should be a bit more meat in this than
well, and again, what is the thing that you're disgruntled about beyond I just want more, I don't like, inflation. You're mad at inflation more than you are Subway.
Yeah.
Doug, funny, you got something to say?
do. David said like this lawsuit will affect innovation. How is Subway helping innovation is my question to David's point there. Like, this lawsuit is crazy, but is this a lawsuit that's really stopping innovation? No.
Well, I don't think this is necessarily focused on Subway in general, but the more people are just throwing these frivolous lawsuits out there, the less you're just going to take these types of, I don't want to say risks, but the less you're going to kind of do some of these different things and just kind of play it very simple, keep it fresh. I don't know, but you're definitely, that is one thing to calculate in when you're a national brand. It's like, well, all right, well, I'm going to get 5 of these lawsuits. How am I going to react? Should I raise prices? Should I just not do it? So there could be something like the Doritos Locos Taco. I think most of us enjoy that particular item on the Taco Bell menu. Someone sued, like, well, it's not actually a Dorito. It's just kind of a dusting with cheese on it or something like that. That's when you start kind of making these things not worth anyone's time if you're trying to get
right. And here's the thing. I think if you were going to, the Marble Room, right? You're going to a 5-star restaurant and here comes fake bread. Yeah, okay, now you've got a complaint, but at the same time, did it taste good? And here's a weird thing with food. Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to. You could send it back, and you don't have to. Like, that's at a restaurant. And if you're at Subway, it was an $8 learning lesson. Yep. You don't go back. So when I'm growing up and it's telling me it's fresh, I'm eating it. Then there was a Subway in this shopping center, and funny story. So we're catching rent from the guy. He's an Arab gentleman. Where's Muhammad? They're like, not here. Okay, got rent. Nobody asked questions. For literally 9 years, 3 ladies ran that pretending Muhammad was here. He got deported. Then Subway found out the franchise was like, whoa. Where's Muhammad? And they're like, not here and not in America. So the Subway franchise pulled, and they found so many egregious health violations. Yeah. And so I was tasked with ripping out the drywall and stuff. When you're in there and you're seeing the food, just picture a tub, like a plastic tub of pickles, tomatoes, onion. It's not real. It's not like I'm dicing up an onion. Yeah.
I can second that. I was with him. It was miserable.
And again, there's a wall of these ingredients. Eat fresh. Okay. When you have that life experience, you go, I'm kind of done with Subway. Then you start reading that their bread isn't bread. You're like, yeah, you know what? doesn't slap every time. Sometimes it's kind of like styrofoam.
Yeah.
But you know what? It tastes good. Okay, so does cake sometimes. So it makes sense. The fish not being fish. All of this we know. So if you still showed up today and was like, but the picture, I got the same thing, just it feels lighter. It feels less. That's a you problem. Because how many times do we get like, have you ever seen a Big Mac next to a real Big Mac?
Oh, yeah.
They don't look the same anymore.
No.
So there's something to, you know what you're paying for. And I'm sorry, I don't want to lose track of what I think is the bigger point here, which is your picture should be of the product that I'm purchasing. So if you sit here and make some doctored up plastic creation in a studio and you're telling me that's the burger I'm getting at the window, that should be illegal. Like, I'm going to let you spray it with water and do some effects, but that should be the burger that I'm buying. And just like if it's the car that I'm buying, you can't use a toy car and try to sell me the real car. You gotta use the product. So to me, I think the bigger falsehood is, why do you get to CGI a sandwich that looks bigger and meatier than what I'm actually getting? And the real point is, who cares about how less, full it is than what I would normally get? It's that you doctored up a photo. Like, it's kind of like Kim K. You're not even the thing in your Instagram. So at what point, but hey, you still buy the magazine. So
it's the consumers really that are at fault here for this. But I don't necessarily blame a company that wants to put their product in the best spotlight ever, especially when there's several different renditions of people all over the United States and the world making the same product. So it's not going to be consistent and equal every single time. So I as a company, I want to put out the best face of this product. It's the most idealized version it can be. Is it going to be real 99% of the time? No, but I bet there's maybe one or two Subways in the world where, God damn it, it does look as good as it does on the advertisements.
All right, let's start landing this plane. Silent, what are your rapid thoughts?
If you want a real Subway, go to your local sub place. If you want an actual real sandwich, or even go to Jersey Mike's. They just opened one here recently in Canada for the first time in like a few years, and they
Jersey
opened
Mike's
one a
does
couple
slap.
years ago. And it's way better because at least they cut the vegetables in front of you and they slice the meat right in front of you, and you know it's actually real. So yeah, I would say just remember that when you go to eat fast food, you're literally eating unknown things, and you have to be okay with that. Otherwise, just don't eat fast food. And that goes not just for Subway, but for all of fast food, really, in general.
For
Jersey
sure.
Mike's is awesome, though.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Jersey Mike's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Ricky, what are your
Absolutely.
rapid thoughts?
Rapid thought. My dad was vegetarian, ate Subway, but even him knew Subway was bad for you. It was just always just a quick little meal. So if a vegetarian knew Subway is bad for you, you can't live on Subway. Do better, people. It's a fast food place. That ain't love.
Take it from a starving vegan. Wrapping thoughts for me is, there is something to be said about how we present the item versus the item itself that we receive when we purchase it. But unfortunately, that's not the conversation being had here. I'm going to piggyback off of what you said earlier. I think the more egregious thing that Subway is at fault for is, like, I don't know, faking tuna.
Yeah.
And if we didn't see federal lawsuit, settlements in that case, you're not going to see it in the meat not stacking as high as the bread. So I'm going to flip it to you for your wrapping thoughts.
Yeah, we very rarely in kind of the corporate structure have we ever seen someone successfully sue over false advertising. That wasn't just painfully egregious on a very small kind of almost like claims court level. These things never seem to stick, and it just seems to waste everybody's time. I do wish if there was an opportunity to sue over something that's a bit more impactful, like maybe health concerns or like additives or just like process bits that are actually in some of these foods. I wish we could sue over that and win, but based on some of this legal track record, I don't see it happening in the near future without some very dramatic governmental change.
Dougie, wrapping thoughts.
I'm not surprised Subway's getting sued again because, as we talked about, we all know their issues that they've had. But I wish it would stand because I would like people to, like fast food places like Chipotle, who keeps making my bowls smaller and smaller. be afraid that we might be able to win and take them for something.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Rethink Tank Live. Join us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. streaming across the platforms on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. We do our best to promote user engagement, and we want you involved. So be sure to bring your perspective live so we can get you in the dialogue. See you then.